All right, today we're going to tackle a really bold idea for the future of work. Or maybe a future without it. We're breaking down a manifesto from Maverix on how you could invent wealth for yourself in an era where that traditional career path just seems to be vanishing.
And this really is the question at the heart of it all, isn't it? For generations, the whole 9-to-5 structure was the bedrock of a stable life. So what happens when that bedrock starts to crack? And that's exactly what we're digging into here.
You know, the old promise was so simple, right? You work hard, you climb the ladder, and you'd be set. You'd get that stable job, own a home, and eventually have a nice, comfortable retirement. But the reality for so many people today, well, it just feels completely different. It's dominated by these constant worries about automation, wild economic swings, and a level of burnout that makes that old promise feel like a story from another time.
So that brings us to the core problem, which the source material frames with this really powerful metaphor. The wealth escalator is broken. You know, those reliable upward paths that used to carry people into the middle class and beyond, they're just grinding to a halt.
And look, it's not just one thing that's broken, it's the whole system. You've got 9-to-5s getting eaten by AI. You've got career ladders that are basically gone because companies are so flat now. The stock market feels like a casino, real estate is just priced into the stratosphere, and even trying to be an entrepreneur often just means burning yourself out competing against giants. The argument here is that these paths aren't just blocked, they might be actively rigged against you.
Okay, so if the old ways are broken, what are you supposed to do? Well, this is where the author introduces a pretty cool concept, the wealth engine. Think of it less like a company and more like your own personal, self-reinforcing system. It's something you design yourself that creates value, meaning, and capital over time, with the ultimate goal of making a traditional job totally unnecessary.
All right, so that's the what. Now for the big question. How do you actually build one of these things? That's what we're diving into next with a really practical framework. The process for building one is broken down into this 4-step framework they call UCAP. First, you understand. You find a real pattern, a real problem out there. Next, you create a simple working engine to solve it. Then you get clever and automate that engine using AI and other tools. And the final crucial step is to protocolize it, turning your solution into an open, repeatable system that other people can use or even build on top of.
I know that might still sound a little abstract, so this next section gives us some actual blueprints to look at. The source outlines 7 different archetypes for these wealth engines, and we're going to walk through 3 of the most interesting ones.
First up, we've got something that's super relevant right now, the AI Prompt Ecosystem Curator. I mean, with the absolute explosion of AI tools, the skill of telling an AI exactly what to do has become insanely valuable.
So how does this work? Well, it's all about designing and packaging these optimized prompts. You could sell them as prompt packs for different tasks, or even build fully custom AI agents for clients. And the monetization is pretty cool. You could have a private repository that people pay to get into, or even earn royalties based on how well your AI creation performs.
Okay, next up is something a little more futuristic, but honestly, it's a fascinating idea, the reputation synthesizer. The whole point of this is to capture the value that you're probably already creating online just by being an expert in contributing to communities. So the idea is you gather all that digital proof of your expertise, your smartest tweets, your open source code, your helpful forum posts, whatever, and you bundle it all up into a verifiable digital asset, like an NFT. This reputation NFT then becomes your digital passport, unlocking exclusive job offers, project bounties, or even key roles in DAOs, which are basically just online communities owned by their members. And for our third example, we've got something really practical. This one's for anyone out there who just loves to tinker and mash different tools together to create something new.
See, the key here is that you're not inventing anything brand new from scratch. The value you create is in assembling all these amazing off-the-shelf tools, AIs, APIs, no-code apps, and integrating them to solve a very specific problem for a niche group. Then you can sell that automated workflow as a simple subscription, like a little micro-agent that takes care of a headache for a small team.
Okay, so we've got the theory, we've got the blueprints. Now it's time to get practical. This next section is basically the launch kit, the actual stack of tools you could use to get one of these wealth engines up and running today.
Whoa, okay. This might look a little intimidating at first glance,
But let's just walk through what these layers actually do. The interface, that's just the front door, right? It's what people see. The logic is the brain. It's the AI that makes the decisions. The contracts layer is where the rules of the game are set in stone, usually with Web3 tech, so it's all transparent and automatic. Then you got storage for the data, distribution for getting the word out, and monetization for, well, getting paid. But the key takeaway here isn't that you need to be an expert in all these specific tools. It's that for the first time, accessible tools exist for every single part of this process. And finally, this is where the manifesto really zooms out from, building your own thing to something way bigger, the potential for a whole new kind of economy.
This quote from the author really gets to the heart of that vision. It's about seeing the economy less as a bunch of rigid companies and more like a living, breathing network. It's a dynamic field of incentives and trust, all governed by open rules that help people and AIs work together more effectively.
And according to the source, the path to this future starts small. It's not a giant top-down revolution. It begins with individuals like you building their own little wealth engines. Then, those engines start connecting to each other, forming protocol meshes. Over time, these can grow into huge collaborative networks that manage shared resources. And eventually, they could evolve into what the author calls full-blown coordination economy.
And that really leaves us with the big, powerful question at the end of all this. The ideas presented here aren't just about launching a new app or some side hustle. It's a prompt to ask, are we just building the next new product, or are we getting a chance to build a fundamentally new type of economy? It's a challenge to think beyond the job, beyond the company, and start to imagine what would it mean to actually build a new economic operating system from the ground up.